Welcome to Monkey Chatter. Monkey Chatter is a podcast by three great friends who have different perspectives on all things wellness. So let's jump right into today's topic. Hi, and welcome to Monkey Chatter. This is Lara, and I'm here with Michelle and Amy, as always. In today's topic, although a little off the cuff, it is something we have talked about before and have been wanting to cover. So we just kind of wanted to pick a topic that we didn't need to do a lot of research on. We knew we could wing it. And this is one of those topics.
Don't we wing them all?
But we actually are learning stuff just right now while we're checking out what this topic is. And the topic is the technology gap. So whatever that means to you, I can tell you that what it kind of meant to me when we came up with it, and I think this was what it meant to Amy and Michelle as well, was the idea that as you age, you have less affinity for the new technologies that are popping up or that everybody else is utilizing. So the younger generation is like way ahead of the curve when it comes to like, oh, there's a new iPhone or there's a new app or there's a new way to use your computer or there's a chip in your arm that you can now like order groceries that online. Whatever it might be, the older you get, the more difficult it is to grasp and learn and use these technologies. But as we just minutes ago realized, the technology gap is actually way bigger and much broader. It's a much broader topic than we even realized. For starters, and I'll just jump right in and say we Googled it. What came up right away was, of course, the actual definition of a technology gap, which was developed in 1961. And this is not something I knew at all. So, brand new learning stuff here. The technology gap was a theory, and it was a model developed in 1961 by somebody called M.V. Posner. And it described an advantage enjoyed by a country that introduces new goods in a market. And the theory was that any country who develops a new good will then enjoy an advantage and a temporary monopoly over this new good or new technology until other countries have achieved the ability to imitate the new good. And I guess this could also mean, where you live, depending on if you live in a city versus rural, you have, more advantages. And immediately I thought, well, obviously they didn't have Amazon back there because now you can order whatever you want from wherever you want, pretty much, as long as you can afford it. So the technology gap is a way deeper topic than we first concluded. However, we are going to kind of still focus on one that we all have some experience with, which is the idea that as we age, technology becomes more challenging. And I can speak to that myself, but I'm going to let Michelle, who is the eldest of the three,
Right. It's like
the
you're the one that has the
wisest,
most experience.
she's also the wisest.
Please, if only that were true.
I'm going to let you take over and tell us what you think about technology gap.
Yeah. So that's like a really interesting topic for me because I have that that sort of love hate, right? So I can coming from, being the eldest and coming from pre-cell phone, like pre-fax, like all those things and sort of having
I mean, I think we were all
Really?
pre-cell phone.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
so. Yeah, we're not
Okay,
that far apart.
so I don't feel
And
that bad,
maybe even
That
pre-fax. What is even a fax anymore? Like people still use
right?
those?
yeah.
People are probably like, "What is a fax?"
Yeah.
But I I think when you, um, you're coming through that and learning new technologies as an adult as opposed to I think it's like learning a language, right?
Mm.
So, if you're a child and you grow up in a bilingual household or learn, another language when you're young, it's so much easier, right? You pick it up more quickly. Your accent is usually much more accurate or close. You have the ability to do that. And I feel like learning technology is sort of the same way. Like, because I learned all of these things started to happen. I mean, when did I had a Blackberry. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Who knows?
right?
Blackberry,
I
yeah.
loved my Blackberry. I
I
kinda
thought it was
anyway, that's another topic. Could we
yeah.
go back to the Blackberry? Because that
Oh, no, I don't wanna do that.
I liked my Blackberry.
Buttons
Um,
were too
Yeah.
small.
Yeah, no.
ugh, so
Um, but I do remember, like, when I got that, I was like,
it was
"Yeah,
so
I
cool,
am now
right? Yeah,
cool."
like, I am all that. But I think when you learn those things as an adult, it doesn't come as quickly, it doesn't come as easily, and, um, and it's not that you can't learn it. We were talking about learning a second language, right? It's not that you can't do it, but it definitely is a little more challenging to do it. And, Amy, you and I talk a lot about, you know, not wanting to do me especially, not wanting to do things that are uncomfortable or hard, right? And so you're like, "Ugh, really? Do I need to learn how to?" And so I feel like the technology is a little like that too. And I feel the other thing that sort of pisses me off about technology is I feel like we just get forced into it. Like, you can't I feel so sorry for folks just paying your bills, right?
Mhm.
So if you grew up your whole life, like I remember sitting down with my mom and you bring out all your bills and then you pay them with your checkbook,
Checkbook.
like, right? And you do that and you balance your bank. And so if you grew up that way and that's how you kept track of your money, um, I mean, so many of I hate to say this, the kids, right? Like people in their 20s and 30s, um, they don't, they don't even none of that. There's none of that. Everything just they don't there's none of that. There's no
They
checkbook.
do it
There's
all
no
on their
It's
phones.
on
They
online,
their
do it
yeah.
all
phone.
on their
Yeah.
phones. And I'll be honest, I am so glad I don't have to write checks anymore. I do occasionally write checks,
Yeah.
and I actually one of perfect example, a recent time I had to write a check was to my sister. And sorry, Kim, I'm telling the story again because I know it was a pain in the butt. I wrote her a check and I did it wrong, and I didn't catch it.
I love it. Yay.
And she didn't catch it. And guess what? She deposited it in her bank and they didn't catch it until it cleared the bank it came from. It cleared there, and then 2 days later it went back in the bank it came from because they caught it and they were like, "Wait a minute, this isn't right."
Right?
So it caused this whole like chain
Wait, did
reaction.
you put,
And
like, the wrong amount or not sign it
no,
or what?
I think it was the number was written out, but I didn't handwrite out the part below
Oh, on the
Yep.
correctly.
line.
Yep.
And I just don't do it that often anymore. And yeah, so we had to do the whole thing over again, and it like was just a big pain in the butt. But I do like that part of technology. But if it changes, I'm probably screwed because like I've learned this way and I have my bank, and if they better not change anything or I'm not gonna
And
be able to
that's
do
part
it.
of the challenge because everything changes so quickly. Like I was just with a friend of mine, and her mom is in her 90s, and they, she's always been really tech sat. Like she does everything on the computer, does tons of genealogy research, but they got her a new laptop, and sh- that is so hard for her. And you're right, Lara, like, it's all good while it's all good, and that's the way you do it, but that's when I think that technology gap where I think I hate to link it to age because I'm not sure that's exactly it, but, you get used to doing things one way, and you know how to do it. It's like when I get a new laptop for work. Oh my god!
That is a painful process for me.
Yes,
Like, when you get a new laptop.
yes, it is. The people around me, it's horrible. Like, "Oh, like, I would rather not. Like, please do not. I don't want a new one." Right? Mm. So there's something there. And maybe that would be, something to sort of do more research on or talk to somebody who handles like neuropsychology. Like, what is that? Why is that that happens? I don't know. Amy, any ideas? Please
I
jump
was
in.
just laughing because when you were talking about, the friend that you were just with and her mom in the '90s, I saw my great aunt this past week, and she is 97. She will be 98 in October, and she still lives on her own, and she was talking about seeing stuff on Facebook, and I was like, "Wait, you have a Facebook account?" She's like, "Yeah." She's like, "I don't really post, I don't really post much on there or anything, but, like, I just kinda keep up with people." I'm like, "The fact that you know how to work Facebook at 97 years old," I'm like, "You go, girl." Like, yeah, um, but I don't know. When we were talking about this, like, when we decided that this was gonna be our topic, I literally was just the other day because obviously, we set up this podcast, and it still is not my technology is still not magical with all of this by any stretch, and I know that there's way more that we can do with it, but I just haven't, like, taken the time to sit down, because I'm sure we can add music to it, and we can do all that fancy schmancy stuff, um but, like, I was just thinking about, like, all the stuff that we've had to learn just with this, and then getting, like, the videos up on YouTube and, doing the social stuff and all of that. And then I'm also in the process of setting up, a website for Archie's blankets. Oh, for the love of God, what am I doing? So, like, literally, I don't know what you would do without YouTube because I literally just, like, YouTube how to do YouTube
See,
for a
and so
Yeah,
podcast.
here's a good technology gap. Like, so you will do that, and honestly, there would be just anybody who's listening, there would be no podcast if I had been the one who had to figure it out because I that there would be no podcast. I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, that's too hard. I'm not doing this." Makes me too nervous. Like, I get too much anxiety around the whole thing. Um yeah, so that would not be happening. But even, like, to hear you talk about, um, using YouTube, like, I just don't do it. I don't go there, I don't have an account, I did a little virtual dressage test thing,
Oh, yeah,
and
did
I
you
I ended up not I didn't send
I
it in.
told you to call me, I would
Yeah,
help you put it
I
up.
was like, "Oh, screw it. This is, like, way too much work for what?" Right? Like, so what? All I really wanted was the video and somebody else can go over it. But like I just it's it becomes too much trouble because it takes me so much longer, takes me so much time. Like uh, so at work, right? We're learning this new Salesforce thing. And and we had some training on it today. And where the gap really shows up for me, like, I could figure it out, but literally I need to sit down in a quiet room by myself and do the things, right? And today, the gal who was doing our training, super good, knows her stuff. And I'm sure for everybody else on that call, it was fine, but she was just going so fast that, like, after about I don't know, 15 minutes in, I'm like, "Ugh, well, I'm just gonna have to go back and listen to this," because she's, like, going so I can't even get my brain to where I can follow the steps. So there's definitely, you know, like a frame of reference, I guess, or you know, something that's different when I you're comfortable with or have learned you know what I mean? I don't know, I'm not explaining that well, but there is definitely a difference, and I don't think I'm not one of those people who thinks that, "Oh, you're just getting older and your brain just doesn't work." Like, I don't think that's it. Like, that's not the answer. That's not what there's something else, so I guess I should have done a little more research on that before we had this call. Sorry.
Well, I did pull up a little information.
Yay, Lara.
Yay
Just now.
Google, just now, and so there is kind of this thing called tech anxiety,
That's me.
Michelle's like that for
technology
me.
anxiety, and it's basically it's rooted in the fear of the unknown, which makes complete sense to me because when you have to switch from like your phone or your laptop that you're used to using, first of all, there's muscle memory involved. And there's also neurons involved. I mean, your neural pathways have formed so that you can just reach onto your keyboard and type without thinking about it. Or the way you swish or swipe or tap
Mm.
on your phones, it's all been embedded now in your neurons. So the synaptic pathways have been formed based on however long you've been using this phone or this piece of technology. So it's only natural that when you switch to something different or new and it becomes less it's not I guess it's just not easy. It's fear of change. It's hard. It's you have to stop and think about it and it becomes frustrating and you get anxious. You can worry, you can stress, or you can even find they say some people even find a state of panic when
Oh,
you're
yeah.
encountering technology. You
I
know
do that.
that feeling where you're like, your computer isn't doing what it needs to, or it won't come on, or your iPad has gone dark and there's no reason for it. And I have this problem a lot at the Salt Cave because we have two iPads and then we have um like a little thing with the charge card thingy where you can tap or insert a slide or whatever. And
Yes, and they're different
inevitably one
everywhere.
of the two
They're
of
different.
them
That
will
drives me
be
crazy.
freaking not working. And I mean, there'll be times where I get this rising sense of panic in my chest where panic turns to anger and I want to take the iPad and literally throw it through the window. I want to like feel the satisfying crash as the screen hits the cement floor and shatters into a billion pieces. And then I remember that my place is a space of zen. So I take some deep breaths.
Uh, uh,
But yeah, it's
you,
real. Technology anxiety is real.
you
And I
know,
think the gap is real. I think the gap is just like the idea that you said, Michelle, where you can easily learn new things when you're young. Your whatever, your brain pathways are not as established. So you can break those pathways pretty easily and add new things to them, like learning a language or learning how to use an iPad or a whatever. But yeah, the minute you step away from that, it's like, okay, well, the older you get, the harder it is to rewire those brain pathways. I think that's it. I think, though, the key is to keep doing it, even though it's
yeah.
hard. And I will give you a case in point. So, the difference between my mom and my dad. So, granted, my mom now has memory problems, and so now I don't count anything beyond the point where she was diagnosed with that after she had a stroke. But prior to that, she wasn't willing to learn how to use like the iPad, or she lost the ability to use her laptop. She never learned how to use a cell phone. And part of it was because she just was like, nope, it's too hard. And we got her the book, iPads for Dummies. They actually have one, and she just didn't wanna do it. So part of that was the, kind of that insistence of like, "Oh, I've lived my whole life without it. I don't need it now." On the other hand, my dad, who's always been a little bit more technologically savvy anyways, he is in his 80s now. He's a little older than my mom, and he's playing Wordle every day. He texts, he gets on the computer, like he can do all the things. And it's just amazing to me the difference. Like Amy's 90, what was she? 93?
7?
97
97.
on Facebook.
She'll be 98 in October.
I mean, I love that. Like, so who's to say, like, is this all related to, like, Amy, like you always say, like, we have to sometimes do the hard things.
Yeah.
You're the coach.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are both coaches, but
Mm,
Yeah.
Amy's the coach of doing the hard things.
Physical. Oh,
mm.
Michelle's the mental one.
Yeah, apparently I'm not doing a very good job on myself.
Well, let's
Yeah.
also talk about what came up when we first Googled this because it was not what we thought with the technology gap, right?
Mm.
It was more about, like, who has access to
Oh,
technology versus who
I
doesn't.
like how Lara's, like, planting the seed, like, "Michelle,
Oh,
Michelle,
oh, okay.
this is where
Yeah.
you come in."
Cue
Like, "Oh,
Michelle.
wait, it's me." Um,
Stage left.
yeah, okay, I'm trying. Yeah, so when I so when I first Googled it, the thing that came up was just that the technology gap, that basically somewhere around half of the population on the planet doesn't have access to the Internet,
That's
and
a lot.
that just
Yeah.
struck me in such a
But I think we have to remember where we live.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I mean, we live in the United States,
yeah.
which is yeah.
But even, if you think about that, because I live in a pretty rural area, and if you get just a little north of me, I mean, the big thing has been trying to get broadband up there because there are places up, not too, seriously, like we're talking less than an hour north of me,
Yeah.
where, you don't have access. And a lot of these, so you think about kids and like if you're going to school and you don't have access to internet, and I mean, it just talk about a gap, right? And then, you're finally get to college, and if you're from a rural area and haven't had easy access, and you're competing against kids who have, they just have grown up with all kinds of like, they get the iPad in kindergarten now,
Mhm.
you get your whatever they call it. I don't even know what they call it. An iPad. It's a something, and I can't tablet. You get your tablet when you're in grade school. So, you think about those kinds of things, or if you're in the half of the population that doesn't have access, it just puts you at a disadvantage, like, there's right away, you know?
Yeah, you could argue that it does. You might
Or
even
yeah,
argue that
Right?
it doesn't.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
But
exactly.
I
Maybe
think
then
you're
with
right.
those folks, like, that might be better for
If
me.
you look at, like, a map, it is typically
Developed
underdeveloped
nation.
yeah, the underdeveloped nations that don't, the continents that are less, um, advantaged in many other ways. Yeah, exactly. One thing, I
Good
really
point,
found
Laura.
this was super interesting. This is a whole topic I had no idea how much depth there was. So I think I read somewhere where like some countries have like really good, and some of these are small countries, like the Netherlands apparently has like a very, very good internet coverage, like 100% or something. And then what's interesting is like there's countries that have access, but because of their politics, like this is a good example, Saudi Arabia, they have like 99% saturation of ability to access the internet, but they block access to things like Wikipedia and Google, things like that. And I don't know how true everything is like nowadays, but at least this is kind of like when you Googled all this stuff, this is the stuff that comes up. Maybe that's why they block Google because who knows if it's right. But the fact that they're blocking websites on the internet shows you obviously they're trying to control some sort of narrative. But yet they have 100% or 99% access. So like that's a whole nother thing right there. It's like populations might not have access, but the countries do.
The other thing, and I know we've been talking about like internet type technology, phone, tablet, iPad, yada yada. But like two examples that just came up this past week when I was back home at my dad's. One, he just got rid of the van that we had. Well, I shouldn't say we, that they had for my mom. It was a handicapped accessible van. And so he sold that now because it had, like, the big ramp and all that stuff, so he didn't need that anymore, and, got a new car, and we had gone to
Oh,
look at
no.
cars for him, and he's like, "I don't need all that stuff, like, I don't know how to push." So, luckily, my brother found him this, like, 2005, um, like, little SUV type thing that had like 30,000 miles on it, and it's perfect. Like it's great. But like he's like, I don't need a backup camera. I don't need like,
Right?
all of this stuff. And I was like, "Oh boy, yeah." Because we had looked at Jeeps. He was looking at like a Jeep and he's like, "Oh yeah, I don't need all of this stuff." And then
Ugh,
the other thing that came up while I was home, we can go back to the vehicle thing because that, like,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
that
a good
affects your
one.
just renting a car.
di
Like, I just
well,
rented a car.
yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. Yes.
Speaking of
Oh my
renting a car,
god.
how about our trip to Kentucky when we were in the wrong car and we started the car in the garage that was not ours
So wait, the wrong car actually started?
because we were in the wrong car.
Oh, we had the keys. The car was behind us. We got
We
in the
got in a
wrong.
different car.
Yeah, they gave us the wrong number for the
It was like
Oh, I
B25
got
and
ya.
we
we
thought it
were
was
in
like
D25. Yeah.
D25.
I thought
Oh
So
maybe the car started it with the wrong key. I
why?
was like, "Oh, that's
Oh
a
no,
whole
god.
technology failure."
Michelle's like, "What? This car won't start." And I still remember because it had a little thing that said, like, make sure the key is close to whatever. So we're like laying it up on the dash, like trying to put this key in a different place to see.
God.
And I was like, let's see if we can get it started because it had a remote start. I'm like, let's try and start it with the remote start. And meanwhile, we hear honking behind us. And then we look back and the car, like two rows
Behind us.
back from us, is started. That was funny.
That was funny. Yes.
Yeah. So go
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry. I just, as
No,
soon as you said
keep
the
No,
going. You
rental
had us
car,
thinking.
cars
You
are
had
a
us
good topic with this topic because I just drove my daughter's car. She has a Mazda. It's not brand new, but it's newer. And it was the same thing. Like I drove it home from we all went out and I rode with her and then she was going somewhere with her brother and so I drove her car back to my house and one it had the backup camera which I don't have. My car is old and I grew up in the day where you learned how to back without the camera and so when I have a rental car with the
it's
camera,
so
I don't look
hard.
at it. Yeah, it
oh, see,
makes me
I love my
seasick.
backup camera.
I do not like it. I get it. I think it's probably safer, but I makes me dizzy and like nauseous. So I try not to look at it. And I pride myself on being able to turn my body all the way around to see. That's a yoga thing. But she also had this heads up display thingy that told you like your speed, it was your speed and then if you were like in the middle of the lane or not and you couldn't not see it. It was there, like in your vision, but it was low on it was low on the window, but it was on the bottom of the window, and I'm like,
A rental this
"That is
past
so
week
distracting."
that had the same thing. I'm like, but you know what? After I drove it a while, I kinda liked I'm like, "Oh, I
Did
kinda
it go
like
just like
this."
fade away and it wasn't so obnoxious after a
Yeah,
while?
I mean, and it was great because it had my, navigation, like, right
Mm.
there too, so I didn't have to, like, look down or yeah, it was really yeah, but just I mean, n cars do not all start the same anymore, and they don't shift the same anymore. I'm like, "Where's the how do I get into reverse?" Like,
A car that I couldn't get into reverse because it was like stupid. Like
right?
it made
Stupid.
zero sense of
Yeah.
how it went. And I remember it was when my truck was in the shop and I went to back in our driveway and I was like,
How do I
I'm
get
stuck.
reverse?
I'm stuck in the middle of the road because I don't know how to put this thing in reverse.
Yeah.
Um,
Like,
the
what
other
is how
thing,
awful is that for, like, older oh
yeah,
my it's
is
terrible.
whenever the cars came out, like now I think they're fairly common, but the like when the vehicles came out that when you like pulled up to a stoplight and put it,
Oh,
it
they
like
turn
kind of
off?
shuts
Yeah.
down. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that
I
freaked me out
still
the first
remember the
time.
first time I rented a car, I was in Florida for work and I pulled up to a stoplight and I was like,
It stopped, it
holy
shut off.
crap, this thing just died. Like I just picked this thing up and it just died. But like, yeah, even stuff like that.
Well, I'm
Just
still
Yeah.
afraid to get like, when I rent a car, I'm like, "Oh, please don't give me an electric vehicle." I wouldn't know how to
oh,
charge
we're
it.
just
Oh, that would be scary because
so
you wouldn't know how to charge it or where to find
I
the
did have a
charging
coworker
station.
call me one day and be like, Amy, I'm in trouble. I I got an electric vehicle and can you like Google like where can I take this thing to charge it and how do I charge it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
would be calling you because I haven't done it yet. I mean, like, I really am like, okay, this is just stupid. Like, I need to know how to do
Yeah.
this.
I think I'd just be like, "I'm not taking that car. You're gonna have to find me another one."
Sometimes you don't have sometimes you don't have a choice. Like, they're like, okay, this is it, you know? I don't think so much anymore because it looks like, anyway, we went off on a rental car tangent.
Yeah.
Sorry. Moving
Yeah.
along. Amy, you
Yeah,
were
but
mentioning
cars
that.
Well,
are
and there
like
is a lot of technology gap though with cars. I think it's perfect. Yeah,
yeah.
I would actually love to have an electric car. I'll be honest. My problem with them right now, and again, this is a little off topic, but is the infrastructure isn't there. Like you said, I'd be afraid I'd be out in the middle of nowhere and be getting low on charge and wouldn't be able to find a place to go recharge. But yeah, that's not really a gap. I guess it is a gap though, because the technology is there, but the infrastructure's not. So, and that's a different kind of gap.
And then the other thing that came up this weekend, and again, like I got where I grew up is definitely like I live in Baltimore now, which is obviously pretty city-ish. Where I grew up is not, and so it definitely is a little
Well,
bit
if you
of a step.
listen to our last episode, you would
Yeah, about
know
the
Oh
that
yeah,
Amy grew up on a farm.
Yeah.
but like even they were talking about, and I don't really eat at like Burger King, McDonald's, and stuff like that. But like even ordering food now, apparently, like when you go in, they're just like little touch pad things and stuff
Oh,
now.
I've
Like
noticed that.
you can't
Yes.
just
Annoying.
order and then you
Claire is
pay
like
for it
that.
and
Yeah.
that
Yes.
like
I just
So part of the fear I think some people have of technology is that it will replace the human
when
element,
it
and
is.
it already is. You're right.
I refuse to use them at grocery stores. My husband loves those things. I'm like, "No." And I think I've made this statement before. This is nothing against anyone who works at a grocery store. Like nothing, 0. But like if I wanted a job at a grocery store, I would have applied for a job at a grocery store.
Yeah.
Like
Well, and
I don't
also
want to
those
check
people
out.
need their jobs, and
Yeah.
so if we check ourselves out all the time, we're taking those jobs away from them. And also, I think if I check my own groceries out, I'm like you, Amy, I want to get paid. Like,
Yeah.
I should get a
Yeah,
discount
do
on my
It's like
groceries.
yeah. I definitely have heard like people joke about like, if you shoplift a little bit, that like you're basically just giving yourself an employee discount.
They make
I
it
have not
hard
done that.
though. I don't know if you've ever
They do
tried,
make
but
it
it's
hard,
pretty
yeah.
Yeah.
hard. They know somehow that machine measures it.
Yeah.
Really, or I hate, like, when you go out to eat, and
Well, and you gotta
really?
pay?
The
Yes.
stupid little thing on your whatever,
Mhm.
I'm like, "Really? Really?"
Oh, where they actually bring you like the machine. Yeah, and you
Yeah,
can't
or
read
it's
Yeah,
the
like
bill.
just
it's
on the
on the
table and you
table.
can order
Yeah.
from
Yeah,
there.
and you
Yeah.
Oh,
can
that
order
too.
from it.
That's a newer thing. Yeah. I mean, it's everywhere, and everything is changing, and it's all happening really fast, I think.
Mm,
Think that's part of
that's
the
a thing.
problem. I
Yeah.
think like, obviously, the world has been through, like, the Industrial Revolution, and, when we look, every generation gets new things. I think the difference with what's happening now, and we didn't even talk about AI, but what's
Oh,
happening now is that it's so fast, you just have no time to acclimate, right? And they remove the other option before you know how to use the new thing. Like, there are places I walk into and there is no human option, right? Like, you
Mhm.
have to use the kiosk, and there are just some days I'll just walk out because I'm like, "You know what? Screw it. It's just too exhausting to figure this out. I would rather just not eat." And so and I have some ability, right? So I can't imagine what that's like if you're, you know, 87 and driving yourself down the road and you stop at a rest area to get some food and everything is a freaking kiosk.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like I'm switching gears again. I'm like whoop 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 squirrel all over the place. But like with that is, and I think we have all experienced this with parents, is like the whole health care, like checking into a
Uh,
doctor's office. Like I have said this multiple times. Like I feel bad for the people who don't have somebody, like the older people who don't have somebody to go with them and help navigate that nonsense. Like that makes me just a little crazy.
angry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big pet peeve of mine because I am now my mother's you know, provide or care, not caregiver, but POA. So I'm her health and financial POA. My sister helps a lot as well. We are both in the same position where all of her doctor's offices, all of her medical bills, I mean everything has to be handled, and they all want you to set up an account.
Yeah.
And I have gotten to the point where I'm like, I refuse. I can't keep track of my own passwords, much less all the ones I have to now create for my mom's accounts and portals and billing systems.
Sanity.
I'm almost at the point with like, and I will say, like, I do pay her bills. I do go online into her checking account and send them from her checking account so I don't have to write checks. But still, I'm like, just send me a bill at this point. Like I don't want to waste paper, but at this point I am not going to create another account. I'm tired of it. Like I'm just over it. And if she were handling that, she wouldn't be able to go to a
Well, they
doctor's
shouldn't,
appointment.
right?
Yeah. My dad
Yeah,
would.
she'd never get there. She'd never get checked in.
Wonder how many I wonder how many people just don't get care because they can't make an appointment. They can't figure, because that medical system is crazy, and
Yeah.
every doctor wants you to set up a different account, right? So if you have like a primary care, and then let's say you have a cardiologist and a dermatologist and a podiatrist and every single one of them wants you to set up a separate account, and they don't want to send you a paper bill anymore, right? It's all, I mean, it is over, like you said, Lara, it's overwhelming to manage your own stuff. Once you start having to manage your parents' stuff as well, holy goodness. It's that's it, and the thing that kind of is really annoying is the gaslighting. Like, "Oh, we are doing this to make your life easier, and we are
Yeah.
doing this so all your information is in one place, it'll be so much easier." Well, that's just a bunch of crap because every time I go, I have to refill all the information that you should already have. I'm really tired of doing this. So isn't this supposed to make my life easier? Like the freaking survey you have to fill out every time you check in. For God's sakes, people. Like, get a freaking filing cabinet and maybe put it in a folder. Like, because clearly this online thing is not working. I don't know.
Well, and I do like, unlike you, Michelle, I don't like paper. I do like to throw away stuff. But
Trying.
why don't we have a national health database at this point? Like, why? We have the technology for that, but why is it that we have to have 5 separate portals for 5 separate doctors
It's
when
crazy.
it could all be in one place, and then we wouldn't have to keep putting that information in? Or, this is my biggest pet peeve of all, medication lists.
Oh, right. How many
My
times do I have
dad.
to give that to you?
I don't
This is.
take any
I'm just not on
medications,
anything.
thank God, and I'm
Yeah.
very fortunate that I don't. However, my mom takes a lot, and I mean, everywhere I go, they want you to write them down. Like,
My
no. My
dad
answer is
kept.
no, I will not do it. Here is a printed list. I will just bring it to you. There's
Yeah,
no way
that's
I'm
what
handwriting that every single day or
my
time
dad kept a
or day.
list because my mom was on so many medications. He literally kept a, and she was unfortunately a frequent flyer at the hospital, at the, hospital and stuff. So he literally just kept a list in his wallet, and when they would check in, he would just hand it to them and they would have to write it down. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
It's
just
crazy.
it's not right. Like, and also, like, if you're already setting up all these online portals, shouldn't they have all that stuff in there already?
My
Yeah.
point. Like, I'm like, really?
Oh yeah, don't get
No,
me started on the healthcare system. That
Oh,
is,
I know,
and
yeah.
this is no offense to
we should
anybody
do
who
a
works
whole,
in it,
we
It's
but
could,
not
like
the people who work in it. It's
no,
it's
it's
sorry.
the
more the overarching. There is no, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the sick
That's
care
a lot.
system
And I would be really curious to
makes me crazy.
I'm sure you'd never find the stats because nobody wants you to know, but I really am curious how many people just don't get the care that they should be getting because they can't navigate the system.
Yeah, I agree.
I
Yeah, or they don't
don't
get the
go to the doctor.
reminders. I
You know,
mean,
Because I
yeah.
don't seriously, like, I go to one doctor one time a year, and that is it, because I just don't wanna deal it makes me insane.
Well, you should go to the dermatologist too.
Yeah, nope, I'm not adding it.
That's your 2
When
doctors you should go to.
when things when things start to fall off or do things, then I'll go, but
No, girl, I'm telling you. I'm preaching.
I'm out. I'm out.
I'm not a doctor person. I go to my once a year doctor, and even that I push. I'm like, I don't really need to go this year, but I try. But the dermatologist is something I've added, and I'm really thankful that I've been going more regularly. So yeah, I'm just go to the dermatologist. That's a whole nother thing. But one thing I was thinking about too is that if you are using the internet, if you are using technology as you age, there have been some things I've read where it helps like keep your brain sharp, like it
Mhm,
helps reduce dementia or the risk of, it helps your function, your cognitive functioning. It can help your memory skills. So you know, there should be some courses out there, and this is my pledge for this episode. After we get off of here, I will find something online because one of our new tenets of the podcast with our new branding is that we're going to give you some tools at the end of our episode. So
I'm
we
like,
don't.
I'm sitting here going, "Wait, what are we doing?" No.
What are we doing? So I'm going to
so I was like,
find
"What did you say
out
about?"
if there's any courses that you can just do, like you can go to a local library or whatever, probably, or a local senior center where you can
There's a
do
lot
technology classes and they'll
that's
teach you how to use an iPhone, an iPad, get on the internet and use the internet or, certain apps. I'm sure that stuff out there, but I'm going to see
mhm,
if I can find, of course, it'll be online.
yeah.
But,
Right?
I feel like at this point, most people can at least get online. And if you can, there is some stuff out there I would think that you could do. You can also play games. So I really do think that like my dad playing Wordle every day and the crossword, he does the mini crossword, the Wordle. We do it as a family. There's like 6 of us on the thread. And I do feel like if we continue to do that, like it's going to help those of us who are older. My aunt's on there, my dad, my kids and me and my sister, we're all on there and we play the Wordle, we play the mini crossword, and there's like 2 or 3 other puzzle games. I play them all except for the numbers ones. I don't do the numbers.
Billy, my husband Bill does that with his mom and yeah, his side of the family. So he does that every morning, does
Well,
his work.
yeah, that's what I do. I think it's really important, um,
So here's
because
a
it's
challenge
an
though, right?
aging thing.
Like, the scams.
I was
Mm.
just thinking the same
Oh,
thing. You read my
jeez
mind.
Louise.
So that's the other side of it, right? If you have an elderly person that's on the internet or using email or even a cell phone, they're bound to get scammed. And
Mhm.
they have to be taught, I guess, that you just don't click anything no matter what it looks like. Call me first if you're the daughter or you're the son or the daughter or you're the
And
friend.
that is just getting more and more, with AI, right? They'll like,
Yeah.
you know, they can sound like anybody,
Oh,
like
yeah.
I just feel and at least I feel like I'm savvy enough that as far as like the scams and everything, that I'm pretty on top of, but I remember my mom she'd be like, I'm like, "Don't click that." Like,
Well,
I'm
and they
like,
Yeah.
call too,
"Don't
like,
do that."
they
They
used to, because my
call
parents
and they text.
don't have a computer, and they don't have a cell phone, but they would call, and I'd be like, "Mom, do not give them
I have
any
not been
information
kidnapped. I have not
yet."
been yeah,
Yeah.
not in jail, don't need to get bailed out, I'm not in Mexico, nothing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that and even like the simplest things that, look, here comes a cat. Sorry. It's time. We made it through a long like 30 some minutes without a cat. So, here's a cat. Like the things that you get in the email that look so legit. I always I tell my kids this too, but I tell anybody who's a little older, look at the return address. If it looks like somebody's name, that's not real. And even if it does look real, don't
Don't
answer,
click. Yeah,
don't give
no
it any
replies,
personal.
just delete
Yeah.
it.
If it looks like it's from your bank, hang up and call your bank. That's the other side of it. but it's just so tricky anymore, and they're getting so good at it, and that is really scary. Yeah.
And like the text, the
Yes.
with the tolls,
Oh,
Oh, the
'cause
tolls text,
oh,
those are
so
so
funny.
annoying.
I just got one because Easy Pass, New York, whatever.
yep.
So I just got one, and it was for a really weird amount, and I was like, "Oh, this looks legit, but this is like not a normal amount." And then I finally realized that I parked at the airport, and they actually used my Easy Pass for my parking. So I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh, that's why it's so high," is because it was that. And it was legit, but I was so suspicious. I'm like, "This just doesn't seem right," you know? I'm like, "No, no, that's actually accurate."
Well, the ones where they want you to click to pay,
Yeah.
those are the sneaky ones.
No
Like, don't
clicking
do
to
mm,
it.
pay. Yeah, no
yeah.
Yeah, don't ever click to pay
Or
or
like your
click to
Amazon Prime
download.
is about to be suspended
Oh,
Oh,
or
right.
yes.
something.
I mean, they use the logos and even the
Mhm.
return,
So fun.
like, address looks right. It's just crazy how savvy. So I'm gonna share one I got. This was about 6 months ago. I got a text, and it said it was from PNC, which is my bank, and it said, it was one of those weird numbers. It wasn't like, it looked like a short number. You know how sometimes your bank will send it, it'll be like 5, 6 numbers instead of like a regular phone number. It was kind of like that. And the it said it looks like your account may have been compromised, and
Mm.
it said, and then it listed 3 transactions that again looked kind of legit, like the all cat. Sorry, there's a
Is that
cat
your
walking.
cat?
It's a cat, and he's just hanging out on the desk and
I heard
making
like banging in the
making
background.
himself comfortable. But,
Yeah.
so it said, like, Walmart 9890, and then it said, like, ATLGA, like, code word for, like, Georgia, and then it had another one, there were 3 of them. Oh my god. I'm gonna push this cat off the table.
No violence, no
He's
violence.
now,
I
like, biting me. No, I would never hurt an animal, just so you all know.
That is so true.
So
Yeah.
anyways, I was like, "Okay, these are not legit charges," and I'm like, "Okay, I could texting isn't gonna do anything." So I just texted back and I said, because they said, were these purchases you made?" And it said, "Answer yes or no," and I said, "No." And so then it immediately came back and said, "We need to, put a hold on your account," or whatever it was, and then, um, they said, we'll be calling you within 2 minutes." And I'm like, "Okay." So they called me, and it's this guy who sounds very professional, and he talks to me for a few minutes and makes it sound official, like, so he reads back the 3 ones, and he said, "Are any of these yours?" And I said, "No." And I'm starting to get suspicious because it's a little too much, it's like a little overkill. And then he says, um "So I'm gonna send you a Zelle request."
Mm.
Oh,
And I was like, he
Danger.
goes, and he goes, "All you have to do is go ahead and click it and accept the request, because what we're gonna do is get in there and shut your account, shut that down so that nobody can get in there." And I was like,
No, I don't think so.
"Huh." And this is like on the phone. I'm talking to this guy, and I'm like, "How is Zelle involved?" I was like, "I thought this was like a credit card thing." And he's like, "Oh, no, no, no," and then you could hear the anxiety coming through on his voice at this point, because he's starting to think, I have this person and now I don't have them anymore. And he just kind of starts going off the rails a little bit. So I said, "Well, hang on, let me open my Zelle and I'll take a look." And I look in there, I'm like, everything looks legit in here. And then a little request pops in, and it's like some dude's name. It's like, "So and so is requesting $300." And I looked at it and I'm like, "Huh." He goes, "Do you see the request?" And I said, "Yeah, I do see it." I said, "Are you Jason or whatever the name was?" And he's like, "That's just the account we use." And I'm like, "Oh, really? That's interesting." And he knows he's losing me. He's like, "Well, go ahead and just accept it so we can get this taken care of." I'm like, my credit card has this thing where I can just go online and shut it down and put it on hold anytime I want to. So I'm just going to do that." And he's like, "Well, no, 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 ma'am. No, no, no." And then he starts like losing the professional sound, and he has a kind of almost a little accent. I don't know what's going on. And he keeps going. And finally I said, "If you think I'm stupid enough to accept your Zelle request and send you $300. You have another thing coming." And he just starts spewing out all these explicatives, calling me names, calling me a stupid and I finally said, "Well, apparently not stupid enough," and I hung up.
Oh
And then
my
Oh my gosh.
I mean, he lost it. And so I immediately like copied the text thread. I sent it to my bank. I emailed them all the information. I reported the number. They can't catch these guys. They're,
Mhm.
but do you think as clever as they can be, they can also be so stupid and so immature? I was like really shocked. I also felt empowered.
Go, Lara.
Then I was like nervous the whole night. I'm like, what if they can track my location by my phone and they're going to come
Yeah.
and get me?
Eh.
But I mean, think about it. That's another thing that is so annoying. Boy, we have really gone off the
I
rails.
was gonna
Have
say,
we?
I'm
But,
Yeah.
shocked. We
But
find
that's
something
why
that
people
we
are afraid of technology.
well, one of the reasons, right? I think that is one of the like in my dream world, what I really want to do is shut as much down as I possibly can, like close as many accounts as whatever. I just want the fewest number of points out there, right? Like, and yeah, like, and I get it. It's like I don't, yeah, yeah. It's just not
I
a
get that. I have a love-hate relationship. There's things I love about it. I do, but there's other times I wish I could just be off the grid and just not even deal with it. Like just go back to cash.
yeah, yeah, cash, boy. And that's the other thing. Like, you just can't pay. Where was I? The airport. Like, I forget which airport. Like, you just can't pay cash for anything. Like, they make it so hard to
There's a
pay.
lot of businesses that stopped have
Just
not
don't take
won't
cash.
take cash anymore. A lot of people will ask in our business, they'll say, "Do you take cash?" Like, "Oh, do you take cash?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we do."
So, one of the things that I find really unnerving, so, like, because even though, super convenient, right, to, like, not write checks and to just take care of it and whatever, and that's all good when everything's working correctly, but when they just had this Social Security scare and they were all like, "Okay, you need to go online and print out your last Social Security statement, because if they lose that information or something gets compromised there, you need a way to prove your earned income." Oh, sorry. Um, that's me scratching across the yeah.
Michelle said, "I'm gonna sit on my
I'm
hands this
trying,
time."
it's so hard, I can't.
Yeah,
Um,
whatever
Sorry.
noises between cats and Michelle's
I
hands
know,
and
Yeah.
I'm awful.
Amy's microphone thing
Yeah,
sometimes.
so
Yeah.
sorry about that. But
It's okay.
so the when I heard that, because I have all my paper ones, I just save them and throw them in a file, and I actually just got it
What?
up.
You
Yep,
do?
I
No,
I know,
do.
not
we're
you.
shocked.
I have them all.
You
And, why
0. I have not one of mine
well,
anywhere.
what happens if
I don't
they're
even know where you
just
get it.
all like, okay, so sorry, they went in and wiped everything out, and we have no record of your earned income anymore. So prove it, right? I'm like, uh, okay, well, I have it so I think about that. Like
I
when,
mean, it's a good question. And is
like
a
if you
paper
have
gonna be
no,
enough?
if you have, well, it's the official, one that they mail you. So I would think, yes,
So they still mail them?
they do. I have mine from this year.
I don't think I
Th
get those.
I don't either.
Yep,
Are we too young?
maybe, maybe.
No,
Yeah.
because I used to get them, but I thought they stopped doing that several
Oh, I
years
got
ago.
April 2025. I think it's April 2025.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Amy, we might need to go
Oh.
online and, like,
Print
register to
that
get
out.
the paper version.
Yeah, get and just put it in a file. But I think about that, like, even with my regular investment accounts, like,
Yeah, I know.
like, and
Like,
maybe
if
not
the
keep the
internet
paper,
just
but keep
went
it
down.
right. Like, I mean, keep it on a, backup or something, I guess, would make sense, or put it on a stick or something like that. But I do think about that. Or every once in a while, I'll have something come up with a bill or whatever, and I'm like, "Ugh, all right, well, let me go find that. I think I have that." I mean, I don't
I'm
know.
sure you do.
I'm trying not to. I really have, and you know what? Of course, someday somebody will want something, and it'll be the one thing I like decided I didn't need, and I threw it away. I think about that all the time. Yeah. I remember when, well, anyway, never mind. Different topic. Yeah.
We've all gone off
I
topic.
know. I
It's
was gonna say,
okay. Well, okay. So here's what I think a lot of this
Oh my God.
boils down to:
Yeah.
digital literacy.
Yeah. So how do
Mm.
you get that?
How
So
do you get that? I don't
yeah,
know.
right? So because yes, I'm doing it again. Sorry, Amy. So they do have, because I asked somebody about this the other day. I'm like, look, I am more than happy to admit I need help. Like there are just certain things I need help with. And they said, "Well, it's really hard because there's plenty of like beginner stuff. Like if like the senior centers and that kind of thing, they, how to get on your phone, how to get on your iPad. Well, I clearly know how to, I've been working in the world of work. I can get through the day. I can even manage to do Salesforce, right? So, but they said there's hardly, because most people will do the YouTube thing like Amy
Mm.
does. But the folks who that's not second nature to, there really aren't, like, there's very few in-person kind of things to help people. Yeah,
The one thing I will say, and I was actually gonna say this earlier and then lost my train of thought, or we
so
went on to something
shocking.
else. I know, but um,
Like I
is
interrupted you.
community colleges. Like our community college, like we get a little because I just signed up for a totally different course. Um, but they have stuff, and a lot of them aren't obviously for credit or anything, but they have like I forget what they call it, just like enrichment courses or something like that. And like ours has a ton of stuff, like a ton of stuff
I'm gonna
that you
go
can
look
do.
because I have a little community college near me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
So I would
really good
check out your
idea.
community college
I did
I
an
was
as a
thinking
Excel course
resource.
years ago. Yeah.
so I think senior centers are probably a good resource for in-person, community
Library.
colleges,
Library.
libraries. I think YouTube is a good resource if you can already get on the internet, because I
Yeah.
have learned a lot of things on YouTube.
This podcast would not exist if it weren't for
That is
YouTube
true, although you
because
did most of the legwork on that.
I
But,
couldn't have
like,
figured
even
it
doing
out.
some social media stuff, I learned how to do certain things on YouTube, or,
Yeah.
like, when I'm working with designs and stuff, I don't always know how to do it. Yeah, so
Guess I need to do
Yeah.
it more. Mm.
Yeah, it's super handy. And I think and this could be a whole other like whoop, but I think it depends on the type of learner that you are too.
mm,
Cuz like for me to just sit down and read something, I'm like, "Ugh." Like I don't want to do that. Like show me
me
how to do
too.
it and then let me do it.
Yeah, I have to drive. I feel like I have to drive.
Yeah.
I think, though, an in-person course would be good for older people, because
Mhm.
that is kind of probably what they grew up learning was.
How they learned. Right, like
Yeah,
me, like, that's how you learned things. You
yeah.
went, I think maybe that's why I like in person, like, I loved my coach training and all of that stuff because it was in person, and yeah, yeah.
Well, there's 3 good things to do right there: community college, senior center, libraries that would be in person. So, woohoo.
Yeah.
It's not all
Okay, so
digital.
yeah, I was worried we wouldn't be able to fill an hour with,
Oh my
just
Yeah, and
gosh, are you
we're
kidding? You
there.
worry?
Yeah.
I always worry about
Yeah. You should not
We
worry
should
about us ever being able to fill an hour with any
no,
subject.
definitely not. If we don't know anything about it, we'll just make it up or
Yeah,
Google it as
and
we
most
go
of the time
along.
we have to cut ourselves off
Yeah.
in most cases, and other times it runs its course and it's good, but we can talk about anything for as long as you want.
well, pretty much.
Alright. Well, on that note,
Yeah, on that
yeah.
note, I guess we'll wrap it up. I would love to hear if anybody has a story about their technology woes or
Yeah.
concerns, or what I'd really love to hear is a story about someone who actually threw the computer out the window for
Yeah.
reals.
No.
I want to know what that felt like and what happened when it hit
Oh,
the ground. Whew.
just the thought of that. Ooh.
Yeah, that sounds like, I'm not a destructive person, but man, that would feel good.
Not
Again, totally like, But they have those rooms, like, where
I've
you
heard
can
of
go in
that.
and just, like, smash stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that might be fun to bring your actual laptop with you. The one you don't need
No, 'cause then
anymore.
you're I was gonna say, 'cause then you're gonna lose it. Michelle has plenty of
4 or
things.
5 here
Yeah.
that yeah, and let me tell you, I have so many iPads and little iPad minis, and you could just bring your sledgehammer, rock
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Well, and this is kind of one more thing. They do make books too. There are still books that teach you how to do technology stuff because we did get one that wasn't that long ago for my mom called it was the How to for Dummies
I love the
series.
Dummies series, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it was that series and it was how to use an iPad.
Mm. I
So
kinda
the
feel
problem
like
with
a lot
books
of
is the
that stuff
minute they're in print,
yeah,
they're out of
they're
date.
out of date now, like, it's
Yeah.
not I remember I got one
And
for
you have
Link
to, like, order 'em on
yeah.
Amazon.
Yeah,
Like, the bookstores are all closing.
right?
That is
So,
sad. Try to go to a bookstore,
go
somebody,
to a yeah,
everybody.
local
Go to
indie
a
book
local bookstore.
No.
that's a good reminder. We have a
It
really
is.
good one near us, I need to yeah,
Mm.
m'kay. Alright, go to your
Alright.
local bookstore.
Go to your library or senior center
And
and learn
just
how to
Bring your
use
compare
technology.
technology.
Michelle.
Yeah.
Go buy a book.
All right, I
Alright.
guess we should sign off,
Oh, we're
and
gonna
Yeah.
try it?
we're gonna do it, but don't go slow. We gotta do it quick
Okay.
Yes? Okay. Count
Count
us
us down,
down.
dear.
because we know what this means. So ready?
Monkey
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 chatter,
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 monkey
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 chatter.
chatter.
chatter,
Who
Who
you
who
you
hang
you
with
hang with
hang
matters.
with
now.
matters. That didn't work.
Okay, just sign us off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
bye. Peace out. Thanks for listening to Monkey Chatter today. As a reminder, we want to let you know that while we think we are really smart, none of us are doctors or medical professionals. So anything that we say or suggest on this podcast should be run by your doctor before you make any major lifestyle, nutrition, or medication changes. Take care and be well, friends.